Hey everybody! We finally got a Disney park open, and that's really exciting to me. Also, we have some news with Disney Springs on their opening, and some of the venues that look like they're confirming that they're going to be open on May the 20th. So stick with me. We're gonna have some fun tonight. This is DPI Live. So hey everybody, it's Matt with DPI Podcast, and we do have some exciting news. Disney Shanghai has now been open. They'll open for the third day here, relatively soon, since they're about 12 hours behind us. So they'll open at about, I think it's 8:30 local time, their time, and from all accounts, the opening has been going very well over there. They have been instituting a lot of things, so that's one of the things that I want to kind of take a look at tonight is the video that Shanghai released prior to the park opening. And I would imagine something very similar is going to happen here in the States, but just I wanted you guys to see some of the things that they've put into place while doing this soft open. So let's go over to the screen capture here and take a look at some of this, some of what they're doing. So big thing there, and I think this is something that is going to translate over to the States, is purchasing advanced admission tickets to the park that are actually dated. So you can do this with your hotel package. Basically, you're setting up the dates that your ticket's good for, and depending on how many days your ticket is, that gives you your ticket window basically. So if you have a 3-day ticket, uh, your window's typically 7 days. An 8-day ticket gives you 10 day or 15 days on it. So there's a lot of different windows depending on how long your ticket is for when you initially make your package.
约码。除上海迪士尼乐园预约码外，在入园时，您还需要携带这些。
So another thing that they're showing there is that annual pass holders are going to need to make reservations for the park as well. So I don't know exactly how this is going to work here in the States, but I would imagine that locals and annual pass holders are going to have some type of dated tickets that they're just going to need to reserve in advance so that the park knows kind of where they are at capacity wise going into each day. They don't want a huge walk up crowd, and I think that's really why they instituted this in Shanghai to start, to kind of limit that walk up crowd. But I think it's something that is going to translate over to the States. So I would probably imagine that we're going to hear something here in the next couple weeks on the advanced tickets for annual pass holders and for local residents.
物品，首先，政府签发的有效身份证件原件，不接受电子件或复印件。其次，入园当天生成的健康防疫码绿码。
Okay, the States doesn't do these QR codes. Valid ID, I don't know necessarily that you need to do that. I think if you're an annual pass holder, you have your pass holder card that you show, and that generates the picture in the database. I think with local residents, you have to show ID anyway. So that's going to be tied to the tickets. And then for guests, it's always been that finger scan, but I would imagine that they're going to go to a picture system for out-of-town guests as well. just so that they have kind of a photo identification of the person coming into the park each day.
最后，所有游客在上海迪士尼度假区游玩期间必须全程佩戴口罩，仅用餐时除外。
Okay. So, here the last couple of weeks, I've been watching a lot of people comment on the masks. About it's going to be hot in Florida and the masks are going to be hard to wear. I've kind of got two things to say on that. A, if you don't feel like you can do well in a mask in Florida in July, don't go to the parks in July. Disney's a private company. They can ask you to hop around on one leg if they want, and they can throw you out of the damn park if you don't do it. So, listen to what Disney's saying and don't pull the Liberty stuff in a private company. If you're out protesting in a public place, you're perfectly fine. Take off your mask, do whatever you want. But on private property, that entity gets to make the rules. That's why we wear shirts and shoes into grocery stores. If you don't want to follow those rules, don't try and make yourself an exception and then get into the park. The video talks about dining. Really, what you're going to look at dining is you're probably going to have that social distance spacing, that 6 feet between you and unfamiliar people. Let's put it that way. If you're there with your family and there's nobody else around, no servers, no nothing, there's no reason that you need to wear your mask. You can eat, you can drink, you can do whatever you want without your mask on. But if you're in a situation or in a place where you can't get that 6 foot of social distancing, put your mask on and just play by the rules for a little while. It's just going to be easier for everyone that way. And I think it's going to keep people safer to where we don't have something stupid happen to where they have to close down the parks and we have to go through all this again.
当您准备进入上海迪士尼度假区时，首先会经过健康检查点，请遵循现场演职人员的指引和地面上的标识，保持适当的安全距离。从这个检查点起，始终佩戴好口罩。在该检查点，您将会被要求通过体温检测帐篷，您的体温需低于37.3摄氏度，方能进入度假区。
So this is something that I feel is going to be really difficult here in the States. And this temperature scan, wellness check idea is great in theory. But I think in Florida it's going to be tough. You're dealing with weather down there and ambient temperature anyway. So it's going to be hot no matter what you do. I haven't looked up Shanghai to see kind of what their comparable temperature range is to, you know, Orlando at this time of year. But I really think that you'll run into an issue if you have somebody that may be running late to a dining reservation or just runs hot anyway. There's people that just kind of run in that 98 to 99 degree range anyway. So you're gonna have these exceptions. I think this is something that would be awesome for Disney here in the States to do on a voluntary basis. You know, put some perk with it. You know, give them a I went to Disney during Corona pin, or do something silly like an extra fast pass or something like that, and get guests something to go through a wellness screen. You know, I don't know if we're going to have antibody screening by then or not. But a temperature check, a pinprick antibody screen, if they have that 5-minute test available, you know, something like that, and then have some benefit on the backside. Don't make everybody do it. I think when we blanket canvas a whole population going into a park or something like that, you have the potential of people wanting to rebuff and now you have confrontation on your hands. But if you make this something voluntary that has something worthwhile on the backside of it, then I think you're going to have people that go through these wellness checks voluntarily, and there's no problem. So maybe something that Disney comes out with. I don't know. It's all speculation at this point.
出示防疫健康码绿码之后，您将前往安全检查点的排队区，请在此出示您的上海迪士尼乐园预约码。
Nothing really different here other than the way you enter the park
在
and
安检
having the
处，
social
请
distancing.
展
This
示
all
您
looks
所携带的
relatively the
包袋
same.
内的物品。在您抵达检票闸机口时，请出示同行的所有游客的有效身份证件。用于预订门票的身份证件需与现场出示的身份证件保持一致。
So one thing I do notice in this video is that even when there's not a lot of people around, these guests that they're using as their model guests continue to wear their masks. And I think this is something that I know a lot of people have complained about. Well, you know, I'm going to have masks on in my picture. I think this is kind of a unique situation, and it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to remember because they have the masks on in these pictures. But the other thing is if there's nobody else around, and think of some of those areas where you go up to a certain thing, and one that jumps out to me really, really vividly is the photo spot for Everest that's kind of on the very front entrance of Asia coming from Africa. It's kind of a secluded little area. So once you drop your bags at that PhotoPass photographer, you could take off your masks, take your picture, put your masks back on, and then go get your bags. And I don't think I would see any problem with that. Guests, for the most part, stay on that path and don't venture real close to where that picture is being taken. And I think you're going to run into a lot of places like that to where they might have it set up to where you can take off your masks, you can still get the good picture, and then you can put your masks back on and, get back into the swing of how the park wants you to handle, not being able to socially distance everywhere.
进入乐园后，绝大部分景点、游乐项目、娱乐演出以及商店和餐厅将在
I'm still interested to see how many rides are actually open and how they handle the queue lines. This looks like they're doing it every second or third queue with every other row on the
在
rides.
入座时，与非同行游客之间留出一个空位。针对单个乘骑设备较小的游乐设施，每辆设备上仅限同行游客搭乘。请在每个景点的出口处使用免洗消毒洗手液。迪士尼朋友仍然
Disney had the hand sanitizer stations available. They weren't available at the end of each ride, but they were available in a lot of different places. And they'll up that going in. I know right before that everything happened, they had really picked up the cleaning schedule and added a lot of sanitizing stations at that point. Characters are what I'm interested in, and this is very interesting what they're doing with the characters.
会与大家见面，但将稍作调整，确保安全距离。在餐厅就餐时，请选择未放置提示卡的。
So the video doesn't show it real well, but from accounts that are coming out of the park, they're doing the characters in two ways at Shanghai right now. First is on those stages. So they've got platforms and stuff like that built for the characters so that they can interact with guests, but you're not getting book signed, you're not getting those personal pictures taken or anything like that. The other thing that they're doing are these little parades through the park where they've got characters lined up to where they can interact with the crowd, but not necessarily do the personal items, signing books, taking those individual photos, anything like that. Now the parade is kind of contradictory to what they were saying about not doing fireworks or anything like that, because it really brings those crowds in certain areas. Now, from my understanding, they're doing the parades multiple times a day, and they're doing shows multiple times a day. And in those high congregation areas, they are actually marked off to where you can try and socially distance correctly in those areas. But it's interesting to see like how they would handle like the hub area at Magic Kingdom and what that would look like if they're going to tape off little squares everywhere, or what they're going to do.
餐桌就坐，提 提示卡表示该餐桌应保持空桌。在商店购物时
The dining thing is interesting on the video because I think Orlando's going to handle it a little bit differently, and I think they're going to remove a lot of tables. And I've got some back and forth from a few people on that because even if you remove tables, you still have a lot of booths and stuff like that in some of these restaurants that they're going to have to tape off or whatever. But if, in all reality, if they go to a more table service style feel to most of the restaurants, and I think that's contradictory to how most believe it's going to happen. But I think if they go to a table service feel to most restaurants and they actually have a host or hostess seat you, you don't run into the same issues that you would at, say, a quick service, to where, you know, it's a free-for-all for tables. Now, the one thing that I think about when it comes to tables in quick service restaurants are the people that use the tables that aren't eating. Especially like you think about Hollywood Boulevard and that bank of quick services on the left as you head down to Haunted Mansion. And how many people stop and just sit there on hot days just to kind of get out of the sun and get off their feet for a while and take up those tables. So I'm going to be interested to see how they handle that in the parks as well.
请仅触碰您想要购买的商品，且我们建议您采用无接触支付方式。一天游玩结束后，请有序离园。若您需要丢弃使用过的口罩，乐园和度假区各处都设有废弃口罩专用垃圾桶。期待下一个在迪士尼的神奇一天吧。
Again, another picture I think they could have done without the masks on. They don't have anybody really around them. They're taking a selfie. I don't see why they still wanted or felt the need to wear their masks there. So yeah, so that's what they're doing in Shanghai right now, and that was the video that they sent out. And like I said, I would imagine that the parks here in the States are going to do something very, very similar as they begin to imagine opening. I still think that June is a good opening date. A lot of people are scared right now with their June reservations, but I really think that they cut reservations in June because they just want to manage that capacity, especially with out-of-town guests. I think we're really kind of hitting the threshold on where Florida wants to be with out-of-town guests. So this kind of makes it really tight with bringing people in June 3rd and really starting to ramp that up. But I think this also gives them flexibility with annual pass holders and locals. You know, if all of the resorts are booked to capacity, all of the parks are now at 25 to 30% capacity without annual pass holders, without local residents, all that. I think they really want to manage that number right around 25% to start. And all that means is that they're going to have some open rooms, which is perfectly fine at the beginning. And then that they're going to let annual pass holders reserve some of those early days. I really think that what you're going to see early on is a lot of returning guests, annual pass holders, locals, especially locals. I think locals are really going to take advantage of this as the parks open up, being able to do some things that they don't have to plan 6 months in advance for. It's going to be strange to them because since advanced dining reservations went out to 6 months, you know, if you wanted to go to a Disney-owned restaurant in Disney Springs, a lot of times you had to make that reservation 4, 5, 6 months in advance or you weren't getting it. So I think a lot of locals are going to take advantage of that and the ability to actually enjoy some of the parks without huge crowds all the time. So still think that the soft opening happens in June. And then I think as they phase it open, I still think you're going to see Hollywood Studios, Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot. And Epcot may only be World Showcase when it opens, just so they can do some more construction on that front entrance. Or a very, very closed off front entrance to where they filter everybody over to the Seas Pavilion, and you've got to go all the way around to get back to like Test Track and those types of places. So a couple of things on Disney Springs. So we do have an opening date for Disney Springs, and that's May the 20th. So we're a week away from that now. And restaurants are starting to confirm that they are opening. STK Orlando, Wolfgang Puck's restaurant, and a few others have already confirmed that they're opening. But none of the Disney-owned entities have said that they're opening yet. So nothing about World of Disney, Pin Traders, anything like that opening. Along with T-Rex and Rainforest Cafe. Splitsville is an opening. So there's a lot of places that aren't going to open right off the bat at Disney Springs. And I think on the retail side, I haven't seen a whole lot about the retail. But I would imagine that you're going to see a spattering of retail places opening at the beginning. And then you're going to see more and more as they feel like it's safe for their employees. One thing with Disney Springs that really concerns me is Cirque du Soleil. So they've been working on this whole brand new show, Drawn to Life, to go where La Nubia was, there in that huge theater off on the, when you walk into the left side of the property. And now there's no Cirque du Soleil staff. They laid off 95% of their staff. They're looking at filing bankruptcy. From what I've seen, they may be scrapping everything from not only this, but Vegas as well. And it may be a while before they get back up and going. So that's sad. I was really looking forward to a new show in that pavilion, but we'll see what happens. Disney surely will work with somebody to get something in there and not just have this big abandoned building there for a while. As far as the NBA thing right now, I haven't heard anything new since a couple weeks ago when they first said that Disney had made a proposal to the NBA. We are getting word from Major League Baseball and the NHL of proposed timelines now of getting games going back around July 4th maybe. So that'll be interesting to see. And the same thing is going with, we've got NASCAR starting up this weekend with nobody in the stands. IndyCar is going to start up on June the 3rd. In Texas, who knows how they're going to handle the crowd there right now. Because Texas is actually one of the bigger races for the IndyCar guys. So it'll be interesting to see how everything goes from there. My thoughts are still where they were a couple weeks ago. It's going to be a slow open. I think June is going to be drawn out to where, you might not see Epcot open until closer to that July 4th date. Now, this all changes if something happens. City Walk over at Universal is opening this week. A couple of restaurants are going to be open, a couple of shops. I haven't heard a whole lot about it, but they're opening up this week. So we're going to see as things open up and as we get more testing done, we're going to see kind of where this goes as a country. And just kind of hope and pray, if you've got a summer vacation down in Florida, you're just kind of hanging on right now and just hoping that, hey, everything goes well and you can jump on a plane here in a few weeks and everything's okay. But, from there, who knows what's going to happen. So hopefully y'all are staying safe. If you can, like, share this video, get it out to your friends. Check out some of our social media. You're on the Facebook page. We have an Instagram account. We have a YouTube page. Tomorrow, we're going to release a video on one of our most popular topics, and that's photography around Walt Disney World. I knocked that out over the weekend, and I played with some new editing software. As you guys saw from the new intro, I'm having a lot of fun with that. But I want to thank you guys all for listening tonight. Thanks for joining us on another Facebook Live. And if you do have any questions, type them in the comments and we'll get back to you. For me and the DPI podcast, and then for Peter, who couldn't be here again tonight, his client list has been kind of busy with everybody starting to book again now that we're getting some, news about opening. But if you guys are looking at booking a trip or have any questions about booking a trip, you can go to a couple of places. The website, patmdisneytravel.wixsite.com, or you can go over to the Princesses and the Mouse Facebook page and reach out to Peter through his instant messenger, and he'll get you going. Just make sure that you let him know that you heard about it through the DPI podcast. And like I said, I thank all you guys for listening, and you guys all have a good night.